A football player's body is his temple, and not just one built in the weight room or on the practice field. And sometimes the most valuable tool isn't always a set of dumbbells or a pair of shoulder pads. Sometimes it's simply a knife and fork. Here's more on the importance of nutrition within the Texas State football program.
As a sports dietitian, it's my job to educate our student athletes on how to fuel themselves appropriately for performance, for competition, training. As a part-time employee, I'm not able to fulfill as many roles as I previously have at other institutions, but certainly I'm able to meet with our student athletes one-on-one on a by request basis, as well as doing team talks for teams as they're requested by their coaches and training staff. When the training demand changes, the nutrient need changes as well. So let's take football, for example, and think about being in August. We can start in preseason training, where they're training 2 times a day, depleting that muscle tank and needing to replete it. You have to go into a training session with a full tank of carbohydrate, sometimes fueling with carbohydrate during the training session, which can easily come in a liquid form, such as a sports drink or Powerade, and then refueling with a meal post-workout. A lot of times a protein shake actually contains carbohydrate as well to begin muscle protein synthesis and carbohydrate recovery, and then send an athlete to a meal within a couple hours. The amount of carbohydrate needed on a plate during a football preseason is about half of their plate, where I always tell the guys like at least 2 fists worth, that the larger guys have bigger fists and the smaller guys have smaller fists, and that's fantastic because they can use it as their own measuring tool and think about how should their plate be designed.
The first and foremost is we sit down with the coaching staff. I think after I've seen all the kids, I've met the kids in recruiting, but when you get them in a weight room, it's kind of a different animal. I get to see them from a little bit of a different perspective. And so having those kids with me in the weight room, I can kind of see what size they are and kind of what they should be. Every kid has kind of a body type that you can tell what kind of weight he can put on. If you can put on good weight, bad weight, all that kind of stuff. So we look at that, and then I'll take those initial numbers up to the staff, and we'll sit down and we'll talk about it. We'll talk about what we think a kid can weigh, and it'll be a discussion about where a kid is right now currently, what's a goal we can have for this season, what's an end goal. So when you get that kid that you want to be 300 pounds, it's not going to happen overnight. It's not going to be something that just happens in a month or two, especially when we have kids that come in and weigh 260, 270 pounds. That's 30 pounds they have to put on. You don't want them to put on 30 pounds of fat, so it's going to be a long-term process, and you're going to go in stages. We're going to give them small goals to accomplish as we move through the cycle to try to get to our end game of where we want it to be.
Oftentimes an athlete in high school does not think of their food as fuel, and especially when they reach a Division I collegiate level and they've eaten a certain way their whole life and have been able to play collegiate athletics at the highest level at Division I. So if an athlete continues to eat the way that got them here, sometimes the challenges that they can face is that they're training now at a different level than what they've ever asked of their body. And they're no longer a big fish in a little pond. They're a little fish in a big pond, and to be able to keep up at this level, they need to fuel their bodies in a way that allows them to optimize their performance. And that's really the difference, is that performance nutrition allows an athlete to optimize their performance and get from their body what their God-given talent was meant to have.
Once we get into the season, there's so much stuff going on. It's about trying to maintain. Some guys are still trying to grow, and we're going to utilize that time to grow, but it's not my focus at that time. My focus at that time is making sure they're prepared to play at the weight they're prepared to play at. Trying to maintain that, maybe gain just a little bit here and there, but it's not just a wholesale pushing towards that end goal that we were talking about earlier. It's really about just trying to, I hate to say the word maintain, but that's really what it becomes, because there's so many demands placed on them at that point in time. Now, the other thing that happens a lot is you have pregame nutrition and all those kinds of things, and hydration. That becomes a huge part of what we do, right? So that stuff becomes incredibly crucial, and what people don't think about is stuff like hydration is part of nutrition. It's not just a side piece. It sits by itself. It's all part of the same deal.